Yossi Mekelberg is an Associate Fellow at Chatham House and he joins me now live from London. Yossi Mekelberg, thank you very much for joining us this evening. Now, Israel has outlined what they call 5 principles for ending the war. These are objectives that Israel has highlighted multiple times, but how do they strike you in this context of an all-out occupation of Gaza City?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Those are not very principled principles. And we look at one by one and we see that basically they are repetition what we have seen in the last 22 months. But in reality, they will just worsening the situation on the ground. Deliberately, Netanyahu is not using the term occupation. They're using the term overtaking to imply that it's temporary. But we know that what starts as temporary ends as something way more permanent. And entering into an urban area like Gaza City will most probably end in many casualties, obviously on the Palestinian side, on the Israeli army. And the one thing that's not me saying, but apparently the Chief of Staff, Eyal Zamir, said in the meeting yesterday, it's amounts also giving up on the Israeli hostages.
Let's talk about Gaza City in particular. Now, this is a densely populated area with a lot of small streets and alleyways and laneways and the like. What would a military occupation there look like?
Well, first of all, we have to remember the entire Gaza Strip is a tiny piece of territory of 360 square kilometers, and Gaza City is even smaller. And as a result of the war, the hundreds of thousands of people are actually there. It's one of the most densely populated places on planet Earth. Now, occupation can take different shapes and form, but assuming that the guerrilla warfare with Hamas would continue and Hamas is not going to surrender, then it means that the Israeli army will mainly concentrate on protecting itself. It means also more civilian casualties. We ask ourselves how humanitarian aid is going to be distributed, especially if the military is assigned. The recent experience of the Gaza Humanitarian Fund to supply humanitarian aid proved to be a complete disaster. Dropping it from the air is not efficient and actually kills people as well. So, you know, we have Israel's experience of occupation because it has done it since 1967, and none of it is pretty. It means that the military, you live under military rule. The military can do whatever they want, including arrest, detention without trial, and in such a tense situation like in Gaza, probably shooting and killing people with complete impunity.
Now, let's turn to the international community here. Is the United States likely to do anything here to stop this plan from coming to fruition?
One of the most difficult things is to second-guess President Trump. On the one hand, apparently at a shouting match on the phone when Netanyahu denied starvation in Gaza, but at the same time, he also said that Israel allowed to continue its military campaign or operation in Gaza, which implies also overtaking or occupying Gaza. We know that Trump wanted, probably could have stopped the war, but it doesn't seem this is intention. We saw condemnation from the UK that, you know, Prime Minister Starmer already said that, you know, it's wrong and will only lead to bloodshed. But the most interesting development is the one that the German Chancellor announced only a few minutes ago, that Germany will stop supplying weapons to Israel, weapons that are used in Gaza. Considering the relation and the history between Israel and Germany, this is quite a huge development.
Do you see this as some kind of a ploy by Israel to get Hamas back to the negotiating table? It's
possible. It might be a bargaining chip, but we know that there are elements in the government that keep pushing Netanyahu and the rest of the government to expand and widen the operation. They have different ideas different ideas about the future of Gaza. If you go to the ultra-nationalist messianic elements within this government, they would like the occupation of Gaza. They would like to expel most of the Palestinians, if not all of them, from the Gaza Strip and rebuild settlements there. And we know that Netanyahu relies on them to maintain this coalition. So yes, it might be part of the negotiation tactics, but on probability, it seems more that that's the intention right now of the Israeli government to enter into Gaza. Unlike Hamas is actually decides that this is too dangerous for it too and decide to surrender.
Returning to those principles that we mentioned earlier, one of the principles is having an alternative civil government that's not Hamas. So in the short term, who would be the ruling authority?
Let me just say it's not only not Hamas, also not Palestinian Authority. So who among Palestinians were going to be acceptable to this Israeli government? We know that the Palestinian Authority needs to go through reform and election, but at the end of the day, if Israel is serious about transferring the governing bodies to the Palestinians, it has to be someone within, elected by the Palestinians themselves. Right now, again, in the fantasy world that Netanyahu lives in, he would like some of the Arab countries, probably Egypt, Jordan, Gulf states, to take over and run it eventually, while the place is demilitarized and the security is in the hands of Israel. How you square all these circles, I don't know. I don't think that anyone within the region will take over Gaza and run it unless, A, there is agreement by Palestinians, eventually it leads to be governed by Palestinians, and also lead to a comprehensive peace agreement based on a two-state solution.
Finally, Yossi, there's a lot of opposition to this plan within Israel itself. The appetite for expanding this war is very low. In your analysis, you've highlighted the possibility of Prime Minister Netanyahu angling for an early election. If it were held tomorrow, say, what would Netanyahu's platform be and what would likely happen as a result?
And I think he's gambling right now also in Gaza, or victory in Gaza, whatever it means. But he also gambled with the life of the hostages. He would like to go to the next election and saying, look, out of this war, it might started with a disaster, but since then, defeating Hezbollah, hurting badly Iran, taking land territory within Syria and pushing the threat that comes from what he calls the jihadists in Syria. And if he just can show the voters that he defeated Hamas as well, he will feel that he might stand a chance to win election. I have strong doubts about it.
Yossi Mekelberg from Chatham House joining us there from London. Thank you.
Thank you very much.